see Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's on his knees, and he's at the side of my bed, and and he's whispering in her ear, and everybody is watching her. He's in the corner of my bedroom with a camcorder recording the whole thing. In my first week in landing in Hollywood, Jeremy says, let's go to a party. He partied there, and we got back to the condo where I was living with Artie Rubb, and there's a crowd of people. Also among them was a television star who I have named Emily Foster. I've redacted her name for reasons forthcoming. I'm downstairs smoking a cigarette, and I can't remember who it was, but one of the guys came down. They're like, dude, you got to see this. Something's happening in your room with Leo. And I'm like, what the f*** about it? He's like, Emily Foster's getting off in your room. Now you got to just see this. So he drags me. I go walking up the stairs, and there's like a crowd of people outside my bedroom. There's a landing, and on that landing are about, I don't know, a group of people, whatever, 5, 6, 7 people, and they're gawking inside. And so I look around, and I see Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's on his knees, and he's at the side of my bed, and Emily Foster is laid out on my bed, and she's and he's whispering in her ear, and everybody is watching her. Now, let me tell you something. Emily Foster was not an exhibitionist. Emily Foster was infatuated with Leo. She was also one of the biggest TV stars in the world at that time. If I dropped her name right now, I think everybody would know who she is. And I think sadly people would probably change their opinion of her in some way, or that it would affect in some way their opinion of her. And that's disturbing to me because the focus is really on Leo in this situation, because he had no interest in her. We had discussions about it because I thought it was from him, right? Previous to this, and so did others. I witnessed these conversations where we're like, Leo, dude, you're leading her on. He's like, no, we're not. We're just friends. And I'm like, bro, you're playing. This is, and then it culminates really on this night, Christmas night, where he literally coerced this woman into this humiliating act in front of everybody. It changed everybody's opinion of her, obviously. And to boot, in the corner, Scientologist Ethan Suplee in the corner of my bedroom with a camcorder recording the whole damn thing. So he's got this television star whose life, and I don't know if you remember the climate in the 90s, but in the 90s, dude, people talk about cancel culture today. People get away with everything today compared to back then. If you got outed for something, it was the only news they got. There was no internet. Things didn't spread like wildfire. They were controlled by the press. And if the press decided to take you and your story, you're done. And if a tape came out back then, you remember these tapes? It literally changed lives. So he was putting at risk this person's entire career, her entire fortune that she had spent, an enormous amount of her time and creative self to achieve. And all of that now is in jeopardy because Ethan Suplee has this compromise on this tape that it's just interesting that he recorded it in the first place. And what's even more interesting than that is this dispute leads to a litigation, right? We end up in this big giant lawsuit and we do these depositions. And during the deposition, we asked for discovery, right? You're familiar with that term?
Yeah.
Right. So discovery is when we go and we find out what they have, what evidence they have that can either prove or disprove our story. And they're supposed to, by subpoena, provide that for us during the lawsuit. So we subpoenaed that tape. Now, the reason we subpoenaed that tape wasn't because we wanted the Emily Foster footage. It was because we know, or we believe, that we spoke about Don's Plum and Leonardo DiCaprio tried to assert legally that we were keeping secrets about it. And we never did. We keep a feature film secret. Ridiculous thing I ever heard in my life from the people who are in it. It was the most stupidest thing I ever heard. But we thought that that Ethan, who was recording throughout the night, that there would be proof on that tape.
Right.
That we would be talking about Don's Plum, that Leo would have talked about Don's Plum. But the tape also contained this footage of Emily Foster. And so Ethan lost it in the deposition and he threatened to burn the evidence. To be fair, full disclosure, he thinks it's photographs. I'm absolutely certain it wasn't for two reasons. The first and foremost is that Leonardo DiCaprio would have never let Ethan Suplee take photographs on film of that night. No way. He would have never let Ethan Suplee take that roll of film, right? There were no digital cameras in 1995. He would have taken that roll of film to CVS, right? To the photo mat, right? Leo's not going to let his career whispering again into a famous woman's ears while she's clearly for the camera. He's not going to let that go to phonomat. There's just no way. So I know it's video because it would be controlled under these situations. And the other thing is I saw it. My eyes I feel confident that my memory is correct, and it was videotape. So it was a disturbing night. And what was even more disturbing is that when he was threatening to throw that evidence away years later during the deposition, it occurred to me, holy shit, you still have it.
Right.
You still have it. Why would you still have that? Like they're best friends. Like if I had compromat on you and you're my best friend, first of all, I would imagine you're going to ask me to get rid of it. Probably.
Right.
But if you don't, why wouldn't I? Anyway, maybe he forgot that he had, a tape with the biggest star in the movie star in the world on it. Possibly.
Maybe.
So that's the story that leads to like that story. And that was the particular one that was most disturbing to me when I was talking to Toby that night, right? I was like, why did he do that? Like, what is that about? It wasn't to get off himself. It wasn't to get me off, right? Why would he do that? And I said, and I think it was because he wanted to humiliate her for some reason. And I think that reason is misogyny. That's my personal opinion. But I just think he's a misogynist. And so, when the Diddy thing broke.
Right.
And everyone's talking about like this idea that Leo might be exposed to Diddy's humiliations and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I don't know about that, dude. Because Leo's been rolling with this shit since before Diddy. So maybe it's the other way around. I don't know. Could have been Leo going, hey, dude.
Well, I mean, who knows what compromising tapes they have on him?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that that somebody knows, but we don't. And we know that Leo was at the white parties. So just when people are putting that connection together, my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'll say this about it, right? Like maybe he had nothing to do with it, but it'd be very easy to believe for me that he would have participated as a viewer in a minute. He was an exhibitionist, and he was also somebody who like literally would put somebody through humiliation for his own amusement.
So at what point did you get to a point where you sued?
Well, we wanted to, I wouldn't say we, but David Stubman, who was the producer who owned the copyright at the time, he wanted to sue right away, but no lawyer would take our case and we had no money. So it wasn't until after Titanic hit and all the lawyers that he visited and tried to convince to take on the case, those lawyers started calling on him now. And then we ended up landing Burt Fields, who was at the time the biggest and most feared litigator in all of Hollywood, representing guys like Michael Jackson. And he thought Burt Fields said he was going to be the big powerhouse that he was. He was going to flex his muscles. Leo was going to go, oh my God, I can't do this. And then we were going to end up in a settlement that would, behoove us all or benefit us all. And that didn't happen. Leo dug in instead. And that was a bit of a shock for Burt Fields. What? Leo dug in instead. He did not settle. Not right away. It took years.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's so funny. Like I filed suit against
an actor, right?
Against who?
Did you sue an actor?
No, I sued Warner Brothers and Ephraim Deveroli, which is a guy I wrote his memoir. Ephraim Deveroli is played by Jonah Hill in the movie War Dogs.
Oh, okay.
So I sued over the movie, and I sued Incarcerated Entertainment, which is the production company that Deveroli had started. So I sued them, and it's so funny to me because the amount of money that they spent on litigating is 10 times what I would have settled for. It's like I was incarcerated when I started. Had they come to me and said, listen, we'll give you whatever, $20,000, $30,000 right now to go away, I would have been thrilled.
Yeah.
But instead, everybody dug in. It's like, you're going to spend $500,000 fighting over what could have gone away for a few $1,000s. Just stupidity. So these people that are like, oh, it's a nuisance lawsuit. Hollywood will settle because they don't want to spend the legal fees. Well, you're wrong about that. They'll blow $500,000 before they'll pay you a penny.
They don't fucking care about money.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Leo spent $1 million on our lawsuit. He dug in for $1 million. And we went through 2 lawyers because our lawyer, Burt Fields, the big powerful guy, when Leo didn't bend, he kicked us to the curb like a jerk off. And so we lost the biggest lawyer in the world, and we were like empty pockets and no lawyer. in the middle of a lawsuit with the biggest star in the world. So we ended up landing another attorney that eventually led to a settlement conference and where a so-called settlement took place. But it was all under duress, and they don't care about money. And in the end, we ended up footing the bill. The movie ended up footing the bill anyway, because part of the settlement was that we were going to pay all the legal fees. So we ended up, it's a long, terrible story about how they never stopped destroying this movie, dude. They never stopped. And it was all out of spite. It was all to destroy me and R.D. Robb. It became this like spite, this evil, horrible spite. And it worked, bro. My life has been shit for a long time, dude. Like, it was very difficult for me. In fact, it wasn't until I wrote this book that I realized I could do anything else and love it. Like I wrote this book and I was like, holy shit, I love this. Because I'd never written a book before. I'd written short stories, poems, lyrics, and screenplays, but never a book. And it just opened up a world of creativity that I'd never experienced before. So prior to the book, film was all I ever wanted. Film was all I ever knew. Experimental film, especially, which is the hardest film to make because there's no real promise of box office at the end of it. So you've got to kind of be beloved. And to be beloved, you got to have a really special movie come out. That was Don's Plum. Don's Plum was going to open up that for me for sure, because it was not just an awesome experiment that went right, but it was also the fact that the process that we began was a process that was exciting for so many filmmakers experimentally. Like it really was something special, like that we could grow with. It was accidental. Do you know who Jackson Pollock is?
Yeah, of course.
Very famous painter. And that whole, like, he spilled the paint.
Yeah.
We spilled the paint. That's what happened. We spilled the paint and we were like, holy fuck, this works. We can do something with this. And so the masterpiece was supposed to come later, right? This was just our beginning, but it was a special beginning that had, really special, performances. And, like I said, just an experiment that just went totally right. So yeah, I mean, it's a wild thing to have to deal with the kind of abuse of power that I've had to deal with for decades, and that it became so personal and so horrible. I did this New York Post documentary. The reason I wrote the book is because I did a New York Post documentary, and at the end of it, Leo, through his publicist, made a statement, and in the statement called me a liar, and he said that I was using this story to gain publicity and to unlawfully earn money from Don's Plum, the movie I wrote and produced. And my God, dude, I got so mad. Like, I was just like, holy fuck. And I didn't know, like, how does a little me who screams from rooftops and barely gets heard battle a guy like that who now just disparaged me in a way that's irreparably harmful? I mean, people who listen to him and believe him, right? I got emails right away. Why do you respond to the fact that you're a liar and that you're stealing from Don's Plum? So I was like, well, fuck, I got to answer this, man. And it took me a year to figure it out. My inclination was to write a book, but I didn't have the courage, man. And then the pandemic hit, and I was like, man, I just got to suck it up and I got to do it. And so this book, and I'll hold it up just because I think it's kind of neat, because it's this. He said, Dale's a liar. And I said, that's my response.
Dude, what's the on the cover? What's the cover?
Oh, the cover is me wearing my Miramax hat. Because they were going to buy my damn movie. But it's just a picture for me in the 90s, chilling out, about to be somebody people knew in the industry. Just about to make it, man. It's a beautiful time, bro. Like, I did it. Like, I don't know, for anyone out there and I got to tell you, man, I don't regret that. Like, if I were to go back, I would not make Don's Plum. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I would obviously hope that it would turn out differently in terms of the way the dispute went down, but man, I don't regret any of the pursuit. But anyway, after Leo called me a liar in that New York Post documentary, and by the way, like, this whole thing's got reignited in 2014. I had laid completely quiet about everything. I just shut up and I wanted it to go away, right? And so I did my time. Right? I went and did the sales jobs, and I lived a mundane life, and I let my dreams stay in the shadows, and I waited for the dust to settle, and I knew that it would take a long time, and I did 10, 13, 14 years of silence on it, right? I did nothing. And then I went back to Hollywood. I left my wife because that shit just ended. And at that point, I was like, it's time to go back. And I went back at 40 years old, 2010, for, for a second round, if you will. And I reunited with Artie Robb, and I'd been working on this thing for years, this story that I love so much, fiction, and I met this girl who's my wife now and who saved my life. I met her and she found out about all this and she was like, I want to read your stuff. And so I showed her the story and she fell in love with it. It's a kind of a weird psychological, almost supernatural love story, but it's like, it's cool. It's like this really highly, I mean, it'll be controversial if I ever get it made, but it'll be very spiritually interesting. And anyway, she just loved it. And she was like, I know this producer, and he was like a giant in the business, like huge, like bigger than Leo, in my opinion, like bigger than Leo. She's like, I know him. Let me just see what he thinks. And I was like, okay, fuck yeah. I think quite like that, as the book will reveal, but more or less some in substance. And so he loved it. He loved it. He was like, this is a great idea. And this guy who's now this multi-billion-dollar producer, he got his roots doing the very same thing I did, which was just, slugging it out with $100,000, $200,000, trying to make something beautiful happen. So he loved this. And this movie would have taken $1.5 million, like not a lot of money to make. He was in. And then he found out who I was. 2014 at this point. 2014, almost 20 full years after I made that movie. He was like, who's that? Oh, he made that. I can't work with him. And he canceled me there on the spot. 44 years old, man. I shot Don's Plum when I was 25. And that's when I was like, fuck, I got to do something, dude. Because at that point, this was the first time where I had a concrete thought. Maybe it's time to check out. Maybe it's time to get out of this thing. It's just a life gone bad, just a bruise that spread into a rotten core, You
mean Hollywood or you mean life?
Life, buddy. Life.
Oh.
Yeah. I already checked out of Hollywood. I moved to Jersey.
Yeah.
I got away. I was out of sight, out of mind.
Came back and you said, you left, you came back. And the second time you came back, you said, yeah, that's it. I mean, these guys are. After
that producer was like, because of 1995, right? And Don's Plum, I was just like, man. And I got this beautiful girl, but man, and it was like such a serious moment. Like it wasn't like a fuck my life. It was like I gotta go. So fighting through that was really difficult for me. Like I was like, oh, fuck. But I just wanted out so bad. And then so I turned to my girl and I was like, man, I gotta fight back, or I gotta go. Like I didn't say it to her, but I think she might have felt it. Like I was just like, I gotta fight back. I gotta do something. I can't just let this continue. I can't let this reputation follow me around that isn't just, and I can't allow these people to take so much of me and to take so much of what I've done and everything. And I'm proud of my work. I don't care if you hate my movie. I don't care. I didn't make it for you. I want you to love it, but I don't care. I love it. And that matters. So I said, I got to do something. And I was like, I think I'm going to write an open letter to DiCaprio. This is 2014. And she was like, at first she was like, wow, it's a big deal. I said, yeah. She's like, it could end up consuming us. And I'm like, yeah, but I got to do something, man. And cause my life is slipping away from me. And, she did it, man. She was like, okay. So I wrote the letter in 2014 and it blew up, in 2016, after The Revenant. Nobody paid any attention to it. It was the most embarrassing thing ever. I was like, in my head, right? I got the biggest star in the world. I'm going to write this open letter. Everyone's going to care. Fucking nobody cared, buddy. Like, it's like, oh my God. Wrote the open letter in 2014. And, it was, then that I made the commitment that I was going to fight Leonardo DiCaprio. Hell, bro. That guy's got a Mike Tyson punch, But I was like, man, I'm just going to fight this guy from where I am. And I've been doing it for 10 years. And the book is really like the sort of the pinnacle of it all. I think it's really probably will be my most emphatic statement about it. And I'm really proud of the book. And I'm proud of standing up against such a fucking shitty human being. And just to the fans of Leonardo DiCaprio, I loved his work. I did. And I believe in a separation between the art and the man, the art and the artist. I have Eric Clapton records on my shelf and I think very little of that man. I have Van Morrison records on my shelf. That guy's fucking kookier than anybody I've ever known. Do I put those records on my placard? You're right, I do, because I love the music, man. So, this isn't about, I don't want Leonardo DiCaprio canceled, and I don't want any of his movies not to be seen. I want my movie to be seen. And I want all the people that worked on those movies to be rewarded, because that's a lot about what I'm talking about. Matt, is like these guys didn't just take my movie away. I'm here today representing it as my movie. 150 people worked on that movie. You know, Leonardo DiCaprio was one of 8 ensemble cast members, 7 of which, before Toby hit, could have used the work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was the only one who was doing well. Everybody, and he was there as a favor to us all, which is the, I guess, bitter irony of it. That's my story, buddy. I'm sticking to it.
Well, how do you feel about this interview? Is there anything else you want to talk about, or anything else you want to add? Or
I mean, here's what the only thing I'd like to definitely let your viewers know is that they can watch the movie and read the book for free. It's a fascinating story, and it's told in an artful and entertaining way. This message is obviously very important to me. I spent 10 years working on getting it out, and it's because there's a lot more inside of me to come, and I'm putting. So I put my heart and soul in this book, and you can get it for free on Kindle Unlimited right now. You can also buy the paperback there or the ebook if that's your preference, but you can read it for nothing, and you can also watch the film for free at freedomsplum.com. I do send out HD links. I send them out because Leo and Toby have taken down the HD copies of the film. They let the really bad copies go, but they stop the good copies. So I only set up private links for now. But no, I don't really have much else to say except thanks so much, man. I hope the story was entertaining for you guys. And, I hope people, learn a little bit from it.